Hello everyone, Joel Willans here again, author of 101 Very Finnish Problems, a foreigner's guide to surviving in Finland and creator of Very Finnish Problems. This week I thought I would take a look at stereotypes. Stereotypes come in all shapes and forms, but I thought I'd talk about some of the questions that I am always asked. Questions that Finnish people ask British people or will ask me. And the very first one, number one of these questions is, understandably, what are you doing here? Why are you in Finland? And for me, it was a blonde girl. And I think quite typically it's girls. Not entirely certain whether it's always the same hair colour. Certainly blondes high up in the list, seeing that Finns have the most natural blondes anywhere in the world. Secondly, when I arrived, the other reason that most foreigners came here was for Nokia. So I think it's fair to say Nokia or blondes were typically the reason. I stayed for blonde women, or one in particular. More recently, a question that's cropped up regularly is, why did your countrymen vote for Brexit? Now this is a video that I could get very enthused about and very passionate about, but the short answer is that the older generation are living in a past that no longer exists. Anyone under 45 voted to remain in the European Union, understandably, one of the great projects of humankind. Over 65 had a greater tendency to vote leave. So the reason they voted for that is a right-wing press that has been babbling shit about the European Union for about the last 40 years. And the deluded notion that Britain is a special place and deserves to be standing alone, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Then, what do we have second? Yeah, another question that crops up, so I'm looking down, I've got a list. Do I miss fish and chips? Of course I miss fish and chips. And I also, although saying that, you can get quite a decent battered cod now in Finland. I also really miss bad sausages and decent sausage rolls. In fact, there's a huge list of English foods that I miss, and quite a few of them involve sausage in one form or the other. Another question that crops up very, very regularly is why don't British taps function properly? This is an interesting one. I mean, in fact, until I came to Finland, I didn't realise, actually, that people perceive British taps as being malfunctioning. The difference being that we have two taps, one for each, my hands, obviously, being taps. Bad examples of taps. We have different types of taps, and one for cold, one for hot, which seems pretty logical, I think. But in Finland, you have one where they mix the water together, and people often say that either our hot taps are too hot, or the hot tap, typically it's a hot tap that's at fault. So, I mean, in our defence, much of our taps and sewage system was built in Victorian times, before Finland even existed as a country. So, yeah, they don't function maybe as spectacularly well as Finnish taps, which is quite a typical theme for anything when you compare Britain and Finland. But we have taps that are older than Finland. And that also brings me on to a second question, which is to do with how we manage to live in the UK, and that is why are our houses so cold? Once again, I didn't really appreciate them being. I just thought that was the norm. I didn't really appreciate that they were cold until I came to Finland and experienced the joys of triple glazing. We don't really have intensely cold winters where if you only have a single pane of glass, you will freeze to death in your house. So, although saying that, people do freeze to death in their houses in the UK, so it's a bit of an issue, but happily that's relatively rare. But we don't have the need to be absolutely so insulated. And once again, the lack of insulation is something to do with the age of our infrastructure and the buildings and houses we live in. My house, the second house I grew up in as a kid, is older than Finland. So, and it wasn't even particularly old. So it's, it's to do with age primarily. Primarily, is that even a word? Primarily age. So yeah, that's why our houses are colder than yours. We don't die if they're cold, and they're old. So what else? Oh yeah, drinking coffee. Why do I drink coffee and not tea? That is something that's regularly levelled at me. Well, I don't wear a bowler hat, and I don't drive around in a Mini Cooper. I don't do either of those things either, but I am still an Englishman born and bred. So in answer to that question, I would say, well, I don't drink tea because I don't like tea. I've never liked tea, and I don't think I ever will. I mean, I can bear it if possible, but I don't drink tea. I may be amongst a minority of English people, but yeah, I don't drink it because I don't like it. That's the simple answer. And English people who don't drink tea, they're probably as rare as Finns who don't ski, but they do exist. So yeah, and finally, why do I moan about the weather when I come from the UK? And the simple reason I moan about the weather, even though I come from the UK, is, well, I moan about the weather wherever I am in the world if the weather's crap, but also because we have crap weather in the UK, but it doesn't last for 6 weeks at a time or 3 months at a time. I mean, we can have, in a single day, we can have like a whole plethora of different weather types, from sunshine, hailstorms, thunderstorms, rain, showers, fog. So we have everything. We have the whole set. And then you'll find me moaning about that as well. And it's more the fact that I think if the sun's not shining constantly, which is basically nowhere in the northern hemisphere, then the likelihood is I'll moan. So I think I moan because the weather is I moan because the weather is if the weather's terrible, and it doesn't matter where I am in the world, Finland or the UK. So there's some of the questions I get asked, purely based upon my nationality. And as you can see, some of those are based upon stereotypes, and some are just a flawed knowledge. And I like to think, 101 very fish problems. There is some sort of stereotyping going on here, but a lot of it is based upon my experiences. And stereotypes are based upon facts to an extent, but ultimately, I think, if you want to know what it's like in England, every English person will have a different opinion. So there you have it. There's my insights into what it's like to be an English person in the UK, in Finland. Some of the questions I get asked. If you've got questions that you get asked from a different country, or if you just want to comment or ask me more questions about Englishmen in Finland, drop us a line below. And also, if you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Obviously, either thumbs up would be preferred. And subscribe here. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this, and see you next week. Bye.